Hi there. So, someone posted yesterday that they wondered if we were going to have a civil war. Boy, do I relate to that question. I remember when I was in my teens in 1968, there were the uprisings and the civil unrest, the riots at the time, and debate over the Vietnam War was raging, all of which sort of combined made me feel this sense of unease, this sense that is very much like what we're feeling now. But of course, we adjusted. These are very different times, though, and we've become so incredibly polarized and lost our faith in our curated news to provide us with valid information. So the information age has become this like entertainment age. News gets out only if it's entertaining enough. Its validity makes little difference. It's the coverage that it gets in the age of social media, right? So many of my clients are now dealing with an increase in anxiety and depression because of the uncertainty of our times. Normal day-to-day stresses, of course, are magnified by this worldwide disease and the economic uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. I'm Melody Brooke. I'm a licensed professional counselor and marriage and family therapist, and I'm also a mom and a grandmom. And for the past 30 years, I've guided my clients through difficult feelings, difficult relationships, difficult pasts. And now it seems I'm guiding them through this time of none of us would have anticipated would happen. Even if level heads prevail and people, got distracted here by something, and even when people's heads are level, the people that are arguing, the death rates from COVID are not what the media is saying they are. People ignoring the need for masks, claiming they're useless at best and damaging to our health at worst. It's what we're all struggling with. So it puts us all on guard. In our social media is fearing that we'll get attacked for stating a belief or an opinion where someone is bound to disagree. I mean, they always do. We seem to have lost our ability to have civil discussions and honoring each other's points of view. Oddly, of course, that's the very thing I do every single day in my sessions with my couples. Partners always expect me to shore up their point of view. Their significant other is the person to the blame for their problems, right? They almost always see their problems as being the other person's problems and refuse to own their own part. Now, I don't think for a minute they're bad for that point of view. After all, it is the most common point of view. So my question to you is this: who is to blame for our current situation regarding this divisiveness that's taken place? In many circles, it's either Obama's fault or it's Trump's fault. Is that what you immediately thought when I posed that question? It would not surprise me, as this is how we all have been programmed through biology and culture to view ourselves and our world. We look to who is to blame. It gives us a sense of power over our situation. When we have something or someone to blame, it's this natural impulse that comes from our reptilian brain's desire to understand who is to blame so we can find a way to protect ourselves. And so then, whatever threat we have, we feel this defensiveness come up when someone questions your point of view. When someone provides you with information that's opposing of your own, how do you feel? Do you feel angry when a meme pops up that goes against what you believe? That's our old primitive brain at work. It throws us into this automatic reaction: fear, shame, blame, despair, hopelessness, and then into some kind of reactive response. Depending on who we are, what your history is, and how you survived threats in the past, you could just sweep it under the rug, keep on scrolling, ignore it, or just try to justify the other person's position, whatever vile point of view you think they had, and then you resent them for it. But you don't say anything for fear that it will conflict or create some kind of problem, right? That's the rescuer in you. trying to get a sense of power and control by making light of it, by pretending it's not a problem, and shoving your own feelings, your own opinions down. On the other hand, if you respond by attacking, using all caps, curse words, direct insults, then you slip into that self-protector position where you feel your heart rate goes up, your language skills fall apart, you lose your ability to complete a rational response to the person's point of view. Reactive and drained, you decide to get off Facebook or Twitter or whatever for a while because it's just become too much. Well, when that's occurring, you are squarely in what I refer to as the cycle of egocentrism, out of control and not responding in ways that will either keep your inner peace or move you toward connection with others. So recently I had someone send me on Messenger a video of a politician they didn't like that had been altered to make it appear that this politician was drunk. It was a deliberate effort to ridicule, demean this politician. Now, I could have ignored that. That would be one option. Or I could condemn them for being cruel. I could attack them for their audacity and they're sending me something they knew I would not agree with and at all. But that's not what I did. I just simply explained to them that post was indeed falsified and expressed my sadness at their having chosen not to verify it prior to sending it to me. And later I posted a link to the verification of its false nature, and there were no harsh words. And the person even said Facebook should take it down. But this is one of many examples of how we can learn to respond to each other respectfully, with empathy, and still own our own truths. That's the nature of becoming a compassionate person. We can't assume that someone is deliberately meaning to attack us or being ugly in their words, even if they come across that way to us. Our job is to hold our boundaries enough so that we can hear what a person is saying, calm our old brain, our old reactions down, and respond out of respect and empathy for who that person is and why they would react the way they do, even if it goes against our beliefs. This is why I can, on my page, have thousands of friends who have actually discussed with me things that matter to both of us without falling into name calling or blaming for the other person's point of view. One of my friends yesterday posted they didn't see how the pandemic could be as bad as people say it is because he personally has not seen it affect anyone he knows. I totally get that. It makes sense not to be able to see the impact of a pandemic if you or your friends or family have not personally been impacted. How could you? So people are behaving as if it's not a real thing in his community, yet no one has gotten ill that he knows about. So I provide him with empathy and validation for his point of view. And I tell him I don't think he's being stupid. It actually does make sense that he would feel that way given his experience. Now, we didn't lose connection simply because we don't agree. Our sense of urgency with our current fears of civil war can put us on edge and sort of make us feel as if we have no choice but to be reactive and to stomp the fires out. But that's exactly what will fan the flames of a discordant society and make us go the very direction that you most fear will happen. Instead, we all need to take a national breath. Breathe, calm ourselves, then provide each other with the validation, empathy, and respect each of us deserves, without failing to express our own feelings and points of view. This is how great republics are designed to work. And there is not a republic greater than America. And it's how we do really make ourselves great again. But going back to providing each other with the compassionate responses required to truly negotiate the country into being what it is most glorious at being. So, okay, I'm going to step in and see the comments here. I see I have some great comments here. Let's see who's with me today. Hi, Jerry. Hi, John, Kristen, Sue Parker, Margaret Fry, David Barton. Hi. A lot of people with very contrasting points of view here. David Monteith, Sharon Rose, Fifi Downs. let me see what Fifi says. If America asked this before the Civil War, thank you, President Lincoln, for the emancipation of slaves. In America, winning the war, though the Southern Democrats hated this as they lost the slaves, they became the KKK and many others. Okay, that's a whole other discussion. Thank you, Jerry, for saying that. That's right. The Republican Party, they switched platforms back in the day. Hi, Carrie Grace. And it's fine that you have that point of view, right? We don't have to be angry at each other for having those differing points of view. It's a perfectly fine conversation to have, to listen to each other and try to look at what makes sense and what doesn't. And it's okay. You don't have to accept the other person's point of view. You don't have to reject the other person's point of view to be respectful. You just listen. You take it in. You validate their right to have the feelings that they have, to have the opinions they have. You don't have to hate them simply because they don't agree with you. And I understand that's kind of a foreign concept today. It seems like in this current climate, whenever somebody says something that you disagree with, well, you have to jump on board with hating them. And of course, there are plenty of people that that I have had to actually, unfollow on my page because I'm like, I can't listen to all that hatefulness. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. And it's fine if that's how you want to be. I'm not condemning that. I just personally don't want that in my space. If you can hold a good conversation where we actually listen to each other and respond back with respect and with empathy, and we can validate each other and we can own our own truths, I find that invigorating. I find it inspiring. I find it heartening. But the problem with our culture today seems like we have, because extremes get attention, right? Extremes get the news, extremes get the coverage, extremes get people to go, oh no, and react. And so that causes us to sort of lose perspective on who we are and what we really feel, and it causes us to put attention on things that cause us to be more conflictual rather than find the ways in which we are alike. Because I do believe that all of us who are putting our voices out there in terms of what's happening in America today, all of us care about our country. All of us care about each other. We just have different ways of going about and understanding what that means. And from whatever your past experience is, it's like I know I have some of my Facebook friends who struggle with the whole idea of what white privilege is, for example, and they maybe have struggled themselves. Maybe they came from a world that was pretty poor, and they just had to pull themselves up by their bootstraps too, so they don't understand what that means. I get that. It makes total sense to me. They haven't experienced it, they haven't seen it, they've had their own struggles, and it's hard for them to wrap their brain around what that can mean for someone of color because it's so far out of their own experience. And so the challenge then is to listen to each other and try to have some understanding and compassion for where each other is coming from. Somebody's made a comment here. No, hi Justin, just a new person. David Barton says thank you. Hi Carrie Graves. So these are all things that we actually have this beautiful sort of ability, if we're willing to do it, to allow ourselves to listen and provide each other that ear so that we can start to put ourselves in another person's shoes a little bit. It's something that's so hard for people to do. I find it even with my couples. It's like it's so hard for couples to, husbands and wives and partners, to find that ability to put themselves in their partner's shoes, because maybe they've walked along the same path together for so long that they just assume that their partner sees things and feels things and experiences things the exact same way they do, which of course is never true. We are all, we all have our own reality, our own point of view, our own experiences, our own way of perceiving, our own way of putting together the experiences that we've had. I mean, with 2 people, 3 people, 5 people in a room together are never going to experience an event exactly in the same way. So, but one person over here is insisting, well, that's the fact, that's what happened, because they saw it, they know that's what happened. And the person over here is saying, but that's not how I saw it, that's not how I saw what happened. And so you have these completely different worlds, and is one wrong and the other right? No. what's true is what your experience is. Each of us has our own separate reality, and the only way we can come to have any kind of understanding, the only way we can get to any kind of compassion, the only way we can get to any kind of mutual understanding of a path forward is to actually listen to and understand and appreciate the other's point of view and their reality, because each of us has these very different realities. So if you are a person who's struggling with these kinds of things, I highly recommend that you get a copy of my book. It'll help you understand how we can open ourselves to being more true to ourselves without losing empathy and respect for other people, so that we can begin to develop a more compassionate way of relating with ourselves and with the people that we love and the people that are in our community, so that we can begin to have a different kind of dialogue. And it doesn't have to be done with anger. It doesn't have to be done with revenge. It doesn't have to be done being ugly and discounting to each other. You can still have a voice, but it requires you to back down a little bit and listen inside and pay attention to what you're feeling, what's going on with you, so that you can then express that to the person that you're talking to. You know, most of the time we're so focused on the other person's behavior and the other person's reactions that we don't pay attention to what we're doing, how we're acting, how we're responding. So we get defensive, and we may raise our voice and we yell at them for yelling, the other person for yelling, because we don't even realize we're yelling. This is not uncommon. Trust me, I see this with my couples all the time. So all of this work, it is work. Because we're worth it, and your relationships are worth it, and the way that you get to experience your life is different when you can shift the way you think about what's happening. And so that's what I'm asking of you. Shift your way of thinking about what's happening. Even as people who seem to be so ugly and reactive, they may be really totally stressed. You don't know what their situation is. You have some empathy for the fact that they don't have your point of view. They haven't seen things the way you've seen. They haven't experienced things the way you've experienced things. So be open and curious about why they're reacting the way they do, and what kind of compassion can you give them, so that you can shift your awareness, so you can shift the tone of the conversation into being more compassionate, more understanding, and more connected, because we really are all the same. We really do all want the same things. Let me see if I have any more comments here. Hang on. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Donnie. Kim Imperial. Makes sense. I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, there are too many people who just want to be right and have their own opinions to push their agenda forward without giving respect to that opposing point of view might be. And that's absolutely right. And we do get very attached to our points of view, right? We get very attached to our being. That's a struggle for a lot of us. So thank you for adding that. That's the truth. So it's learning to be willing to let go of the need to have that rigid point of view. Oh, it's hard. But and it can be confusing too, right? But what I tell people is, confusion's a good place. Confusion is that place you get between one understanding and shifting to a new understanding. So when you have it rigidly attached to one understanding, in order to get to a new understanding, you kind of have to go through confusion. And that's an uncomfortable place for people to be. But it's a good place, because it means you're growing in some way. So allow yourself to be a little confused. Be confused about what white privilege is. Be confused about why the Black Lives Matter people are behaving the way they are. Be confused about why the right-wing people are up in arms the way they are. Be confused about that, because that actually is an opportunity when you have confusion. So, who else we have? Russell Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me. So I appreciate you all joining me today. And I know this has been a little bit kind of all over the place in some ways, but I wanted to share with you because of having lived through the 60s and seen all of that turmoil and all those fears that I had as a teen about what was going to happen to our world. Were we going to a civil war? And I'm hearing people saying the same kinds of things today. I've heard people say we are in a civil war. Well, no, we're not. Thank God. I've seen what's happened in Syria. I don't want to our country to devolve into that. That would be the most horrible thing that could happen. But I believe that we have this beautiful Constitution, which is actually designed to help differing points of view be balanced out. And the problem that I've seen happening over the last 30 years is that those divergent points of view, the most extremes have gotten more of the attention, when I do believe that most of us are far more central. I'm not saying full center, but more central, so that we actually do have more in common than we realize. And the only way to really fully embrace that is to be willing to listen, willing to be confused, willing to move through the uncomfortableness of listening to another point of view, so that you can understand where they're coming from. Even if you in the end don't agree, at least you have some agreement about what you're both talking about, and some agreement about how to communicate with each other, so that you can begin to have a dialogue that will move us more toward a place that works for everybody, and not just for the people on the far right or the far left, which doesn't work for anybody, because the majority of us are not there. So thanks for listening, and please share this with anybody you think might benefit from hearing it. And check me out at melodybrook.com to learn more about the things that I have to offer. And I love you and appreciate you, and I'm so glad that you are here listening to me today. And if you have any more thoughts, questions, please either send them to me on Facebook or at info@melodybrook.com, or comment below. And I will see you then. Oh, my book. It's called Oh Wow, This Changes Everything. Check out. It's on Amazon and Kindle, and also on Audible. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week at 4 o'clock. I'll try to be on time next week.